Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of the Full Quota podcast. My name is Mpho and I've got Tim Delace here with me. This is South Africa's number one cricketing podcast. We could talk all things South African cricket. This week, we're in the throes of the Cricket World Cup, but we couldn't keep talking about the World Cup and leave what's happening at home just like that. So today we're going to be talking about the CSA 4-day series. It's gone well in earnest now, and we're going to be talking about what's happened over the past week as we've seen week one start in Division 1 and Division 2. So we're going to be doing a recap show of the CSA 4-day series. We do know that we're recording this before the Proteas play Afghanistan, but this is a nice little segue into the 4-day series. The week 2 actually starts today or this weekend, and it'll roll into the new week. So we just wanted to talk about that, and we'll talk about the SAA as well. The teams come out for the series against West Indies, so we're going to be covering that as well. Some interesting names, people complaining that we're going in the wrong direction, and we're going to be talking about all of that. But remember, if you want to put a comment, we've got a lot of comments happening on our last show around what to do with India. If you put a comment on our show, please subscribe. Please follow us on X at Full Quota Pod. Please also listen to the audio version. If you like the audio version, that's on Spotify as well as Apple Podcast under Full Quota Podcast. We're there. We're everywhere you need us to be. And so please do. Your support is greatly appreciated. It's the middle of the week. Well, towards the end of the week. South Africa playing Afghanistan tomorrow. Tim, how are you doing? Are you a little worried about the slippery banana peel? I'm seeing Andile Petluwa stories coming around. How are you feeling?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good, and I think just we will touch on that game afterwards. But on that game in particular, I'm not worried anymore. Australia's done us a good there in getting over the line. We don't want to play them in the semis, but I think for us in that game against Afghanistan, I think we're going to be all right.
Okay. We're gonna be all right. That's what Tim says. But anyway, we're not talking about that. We're talking about the 4-day series recap. We're gonna start with Division 2, just give you a sense, and we're gonna go into Division 1. Remember, for Division 2 with the One-Day Cup, for Division 2 for the One-Day Cup, SA and Emerging won that, but the points will go to the iTech Knights and that's what we're predicting, right? For the thing, because the SA Emerging can't be promoted to Division 1. It'll be an incredible story if they did, but they don't play the 4-day series, so that's why the points will go to the iTech Knights. So let's start with the Division 2 games. The first game for Division 2 this year was Northern Cape taking on Easterns. That match was drawn with Northern Cape coming through on the back end of that one and doing a really great job to make sure that Easterns doesn't get through the back door with a victory. They haven't had a great start to the season, but nonetheless, they managed to get the draw there against Easterns, who look like a very good side, and they could cause a lot of problems in Division 2. Then the second game of the season for Division 2 was Limpopo taking on the iTech Knights in Bloemfontein. Limpopo putting up a nice 290, and the iTech Knights with their new player in Dane Pete coming through there. Dane Pete took 5 wickets in the second innings to bowl Limpopo out in earnest. The interesting thing with that one was Patrick Botha scored 212 runs, and Gian Kluter, you'll remember him. He has a Proteas cap. He scored 184 runs in that mammoth 622, and it was too much for Limpopo and the iTech Knights, working their way back into Division 1 really nicely with that win. And we've gotten the Garden Route Badgers Southwestern Districts taking on the Border on Border. Or the Eastern Cape Lanyati, as they currently affectionately call. That was the game where we saw something incredible. Jean Duplessis scoring a double century, 203, and then backing it up with 100 to lead his team to victory by 283 runs. This is a It's a record. Well, it's not a record. He's the third player to score a double hundred and 100 in the same fixture. The other players who have done that, which is, well, surprise, surprise, Adam Bakker, if you remember him from the late 90s, early 2000s, and another one player from the late 90s, early 2000s, Herschel Gibbs. So really, really awesome performances there in Division 2. Some teams putting up their hands here, Tim. Some teams really worried, and I was already worried in that Eastern's Northern Cape game. But you could say, Tim, that they are also like it was like a top table clash in that Northern Cape game versus Eastern's, whereas you could effectively say that maybe the Garden Route Badgers and the Knights had slightly easier fixtures. I know the Linyati would be killing me for saying that, but essentially it's a good start for the Badgers, good start for the Knights, but the Northern Cape and Easterns have some work to do to try and stop these two from running away with it.
No, I think you're right. I think Northern Cape are still feeling the effects of missing out on promotion from last season. I think if you look at it objectively, they're not playing badly, but they're not playing at the standard that they were last season. So they look a little bit sort of they're treading water at the moment. So you're absolutely right there. The Knights just at the moment just look too strong. The Knights just looked too strong. You and I said last season Northern Cape looked too strong. They're going to be promoted. We didn't say it was a done deal, but we said it was highly likely. It's got those vibes again. They look too strong. Whether that will be the case at the end of the season, we'll see. But the one interesting thing for me was the Garden Route Badgers game. That was a really tightly contested game. The result doesn't suggest that was the case. But Eastern Cape had about an hour and a half to bat with their last pair, and they would have saved it. Their last 3 wickets batted for about an hour and 20. They really fought hard. They made sure that Garden Route Badgers were not going to have it easy. So they lost, but I love the fight from Eastern Cape boys in the end. So it was good. It was good to see. Good contests all around. But yeah, I think the overriding thing is the Knights just look ridiculously strong. They just look.
Yeah, they really do look too strong for the Division 2. But that's what you expect from a team that's come down from Division 1. They managed to do a little mini revamp, a rehaul of the team. They've gone to the youngsters and are trusting the youngsters with some wily veterans like Patrick Boyd and Gian Kluter to add a little bit of nous into that team. And yeah, you can see that they are doing it. But remember, we said the same thing about Northern Cape Heat, and they didn't make it through. So just be on the watch, especially for an Easterns, especially for a Northern Cape team who are wounded, who are looking to come back. That Eastern's Northern Cape team looked like a clash of the top two. They didn't want to give anything to each other, and they ended up with a draw, which is something that obviously works in the Knights' favor, but they'll still have to play them again. So let's see how they come up against with a little bit more quality opposition. Obviously, Mpho is working well. They really are putting up a fight, but obviously on the longer format, we're expecting them to not necessarily be as competitive as they were in the One Day Cup, where they actually got some wins under their belts. But really good showing from that Limpopo side as well. Now let's move to Division 1, Tim. Let's give everyone a recap. Yeah, match 1 was the Paarl Rocks against the Titans. The Titans ended up winning that game by 6 wickets. We saw 100 from Dean Alga. He also scored a 45 on that other side of that one. Diego Brevis also came through with a first-class 50. In Boerland, you got to give yourself kudos to Clyde Fortain, who batted with a lot of application, 35 and 65 not out, having faced 298 balls, but it wasn't to be. Diane Khalim just getting through them really, really quickly, bowling incredibly well, and taking quite a clump of wickets in that game. And essentially the Titans. Yes, 7 for 87, essentially leading the Titans to victory there. Really good bowling attack, bowling from them away from home. The Titans, was a good win from them. The Lions as well away from home in Cape Town against the One Day Cup champions. The Lions finally waking up and becoming an October side, a winning side. They don't play well in September and the start of October, but when November hits, oh, the wins start coming through. They put up a mammoth 402 in their game against Western Province. Mitch van Buren putting up 170 stand with a lot of bid part contributions from everybody in and around him, managing to get the Lions to 402. Then in this first innings, Duan Olivier bowling, getting 5 for 66 to effectively open up Western Province for 271. And then Ryan Rickleton in the second innings, putting down a century as well for himself in order to help this Lions team get put up a target of 380 for Western Province. And then enter the wily character of Mpho and Tim, who took 5 wickets in that second innings to lead the Lions to victory. Really great win there for this Lions team. Still a lot of questions around the batting. It's not clicking yet, but they go to the top of the log with that 106-run win. Third match was the Battle of the KZN. It was the Dolphins against the Tuskers, KZN Inland. This one was a one-sided affair as always, but a massively impressive century at the top by Tsapang Ditole. He was really good. He scored 146. And in that game, John Smuts took 9 for 78. I think he took 6 wickets in the first inning and he took 3 in the second innings. He literally had the AET Tuskers in a bind. You could honestly be asking Shukri, why do you need to call on other spinners to come in when John is there? And so that was a really interesting and intriguing performance because it was stuff that you don't expect. And I wouldn't expect John to take a 9 for in the match. And then finally, we had the Battle of the Youngsters. That's what I'm going to call it, right? You had Northwest putting up 426 for 9. The Warriors 240. They were forced to follow on. They managed to bat out the game and managed to draw it out. In that game, you had. As I get my brains. Yes, my favorite. Yeah, you had my favorite wicketkeeper, Lesego Senokwane. He scored 100. You had Miguel Pretorius scoring his first class century, 109. But Jordan Harman in a fighting cause, scoring 111 not out to take the Warriors to that day. Obviously, the final day was rained out, and essentially the Warriors getting a draw out of a place where they were looking at a defeat. The Northwest wouldn't be happy with that result. Tim, really good weekend of cricket. I thought it was quite high quality in Division 1. What are the other standout performances that you have then? Any results that kind of give you a sense of where the season's going to go? I know it's week 1, but is there anything that people need to look out for?
I think the marquee one for me would be the Titans game. Titans game against Borland. That was 100 scored. Or nobody scored over 300, and you had a really good contest on a pitch that actually offered quite a bit, which is unusual for Paarl. But it just shows the class of Dean Algar. And a lot of people were saying, we need to move with the times. We need to go with somebody younger for the Proteas. Thanks, Dean, but it's time to go for somebody else. Dean is saying, no, I'm here. I'm staying. At least for the time being. I'm the man. I'm the only guy who scored 100 in this game. But the big one for me from that game, and I did mention it before, is the Clyde Fontaine one. Now, we will discuss Clyde Fontaine in more detail when we do our SAA series preview. But Clyde Fontaine, 18 months ago, was an exciting talent. He was a shot maker. He was a guy that looked to score runs. He was a guy that took risks. He was a guy that got you a quick 30, got you a quick 40, but he didn't apply himself. didn't say, you know what, I'm gonna knuckle down. Times are tough. I'm gonna knuckle down, and I'm gonna sort myself out. Last season it changed. I don't know what it was. But last season it clicked. He had a couple of good 50s. He averaged 50 with the bat in this format. He's averaging 50 again in this season at the moment. Um, but if, you put it up there. So he made 69, but 100 runs in two
100 runs,
innings.
yeah.
Yeah, and 300 balls. That tells you times were really, really tough. When you look at that Titans bowling was really top quality. Halim, I was really impressed with Halim's return. But Clyde knuckled down. Yes, okay, Titans got over that hurdle and they won the game in the end. But it's his application to say, you know what, I'm not just a T20 player. I don't just want to play white ball cricket. I want to play this format. I want to bat long periods. That for me is a huge tick for him. And look, he's made the SAAs. I said that, but now we will, as I said, we'll discuss that. But I think it's a huge credit to him and what he's done over the last 12 months, last season and beginning of this season. I think it's a huge plus for him. The other one for me, just quickly, would be Michael Pretorius. You and I both said that Gerald and Michael need to go last season. Last season we said we need to go, need to find new homes. They both found new homes. Gerald is flourishing at the Proteas, and Michael is doing well at the Northwest. Not smacking down doors, but he's being consistent. He's being consistent, which he wasn't at the Knights. For him to get that first 100, because we know he's a fast bowler, but we've always known his ability with the bat. For him to get that first 100 at a really good rate as well, nearly a run a ball, is a huge credit to him and the hard yards he's put in taking that move. It's a risk. He's left his comfort zone at the Knights, and he said, I'm going to try a new environment, and he's thriving from it. So those two players for me are the standouts from round one.
Yeah. So I'm going to give a shout out to a few more people. I'm going to start with Oguhle Kele. In his first 4-day red ball game, he took 4 for 43 in the second innings against KZN Inland. The other one that I'm saying you need to watch, the Tuskers have gotten Ben Compton from the UK, who I think might just, and Tim will rave about him, and maybe I'll let you chat about him. But I'm looking at it going, this could be someone who could put down some runs, right? And ex-South African, was born here and now playing on this side. And then I know it was talking about Dean and the 119, but Rivaldo Munsami gave me a really nice innings in that second innings for the Titans. I really was impressed by him. Sia Mahima in that game against the Titans for the Paul Rocks, he took 5 for 59. He deserves a really good shout out. A lot of people have been questioning his ability to play the longer format. There's a lot of fitness questions, and he's coming through. The other interesting one was Yanaman Malan going back to opening the batting. I was trying to figure out what they were doing. He was a 4, now he's coming to open the batting. He scored a half century. It might be the start of something. So please do look out for that one and see if maybe he might just put his hand up. Wandile Makwetu, the wicket keepers this weekend really came through. Wandile Makwetu with that 44 runs with our 44 runs in that first innings really kind of reminded us that there's a guy here, there's a cricketer here, right? And to a certain extent, don't overlook him. He showed a lot of promise a couple of years ago. He's had a really tough time at the Titans and trying to get a spot in this in domestic cricket. Vian Mulder also scored a half century for me, and he might be keeping up the form that he had in the UK, and so that's going to be quite intriguing to watch, especially with Miguel Pretorius scoring hundreds in that all-rounder spot lower down the order, right? Senran Mutusami putting down the runs. He's in the Proteas setup, not going to be going to to New Zealand, but that 50 is something that Shukri is going to look at. So too that half century from Rena Fontondo, who I know a lot of you love, right? And so to a certain extent, that's a massive shout out. And Rudy second, he might not, he won't play for the Proteas. He's the one guy who at times he averaged 50. He even went on tour in the Sri Lanka tour that he never got a game time. He is always going to be the guy, one of the better guys who have never gotten a Proteas cap, along the same line with David Miller in terms of red ball cricket, because David also had some really big numbers. He started his campaign with a 61 for the Warriors there. And so couple of shout outs there, a couple of standout performances that we need to put up. But Oguhle, welcome, well done. You've had obviously you put up on Twitter saying that you had tough years up there in the north. Really good to see that now they're giving you an opportunity at the Dolphins. So obviously, the question obviously then now for the Dolphins is who does he displace when Pavillon and the others necessarily come back? But that's for the Dolphins management right now. We're happy for someone to have played his first game of red ball cricket. He's been in the system for a very long time and he hasn't played red ball cricket. That's an interesting one. And to a certain extent, it speaks to the Clyde Fontaine, right? Clyde Fontaine was essentially pigeonholed as a white ball player. And that innings that you're talking about was one where you're like, oh man, it's really something that you that you are really proud of, that he can do something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just to touch on that. The It's important. These rider games, this format, is still important. It still matters. And I keep going towards the SAA thing, but if you look at those selections, they are telling you if you perform here, there's a place for you. That's what those selections are telling you. If you perform at this level, there is another level for you to reach.
Yes,
they're not
and
cutting them off, and that's important.
and
That matters. That the players
and we're
know
in a
that
place where
yeah.
yeah, and we're in a place where the Proteas batting lineup, especially for the batters, right, is up in the air, right, and so there's a lot of moving parts. There's no cemented places, and it's time for guys to put their hands up, right, and it's really interesting that week one, a lot of the non-traditional guys who've been in the setup before under Mark Boucher, they're not putting down the runs, but it's actually guys from a little bit of left field, guys you would have been like, I'm not sure, you know. But Clyde Fontaine really proving, and I think that's part of the reasons why he made the SAA side that was announced afterwards, that he's he's got it, and Coach Shukri needs a wicketkeeper, and he went straight to him. I'd have loved Lesego Senokwane to be in there, but yeah, there's a lot of time, and I think he's still young, and he'll get it right.
Exactly.
Tim, yes,
Would you like me to touch on Compton now, or
yeah. Let's
later?
talk Compton. Let's talk Compton.
Okay.
Then we'll talk team of the week,
So
our teams of the week, and then we'll talk fixtures.
yeah. Okay. So Compton has come in to the KZN Inland side, Tusker side. They need it. Listen, they need. If they're going to survive in this competition, if they're going to survive in this division, they need somebody who can bat for long periods. That's what Nick can do. He can bat for long periods. He's done it for a long period of time. He's got a really good record. We might have something around Nick in the next week or two. We will keep you posted. I'm not going to say any more than that. But he's definitely what they need. I think they're a little bit shy in the bowling as well. But if you want somebody who's gonna potentially put on 400 for them, by batting for long periods, batting all day long, he's their guy. Particularly if you've got people like Pite van Billion, who at the moment seem to be struggling. He also does that sort of that role, but at the moment he seems to be struggling. So it's an ideal signing for KZN Inland. Makes a lot of sense. And I hope going forward, teams are not shy to make this kind of signing for specific competition, not
Mm.
needs best. I hope that they are a little bit more aware. I'm glad Shukri now talks positively about our guys getting exposure overseas.
Mm.
Um, that tells me that this sort of selection might happen. It's not going to be a regular thing, I don't think. But if it happens once or twice here and there, I think it'll be a good thing because those youngsters at KZN Inland will learn a hell of a lot from him because he's a very experienced cricketer. Played. He originally played here as a
Mm-hmm.
youngster, and he's gone over there, so he understands the two countries extremely well. So yeah, makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense. Hopefully for them, he makes a lot of runs.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer, right? You need to strengthen your batting, and give yourself some solidity, especially from a team that obviously came through Division Two, but didn't make a lot of big moves. Obviously, Pat Van Bouillon was one of them. Kagiso Rapulana, but Kagiso's not a game changer. He doesn't change the game. He doesn't. He's not a
Yeah,
guy I'm going to say no. There's 400 runs here. There might be. He might prove me wrong, but I don't think they'll be there. But a guy like Pike needs to get himself in, and there's a lot of guys in that team who need to make that step up to Division One and prove themselves that they actually were Division One quality last year. So, really happy that they managed to do a signing like that, just to give them a punt. There's another thing I needed to talk about, right? In that Western Province Lions game, in a losing cause, well, not a losing cause, it was in the first innings, right? Carl Simmons walking away with 120 runs and Bjorn Hendricks, 81 off. I was going to get you the balls here, 115 balls. He hit 13 fours.
yeah.
That was a miracle weekend, guys.
They were 71 for 6. Yeah, we need to actually explain this because a lot of guys won't have seen it. They were 71 for 6 when those two came to the crease and said, you know what? We're going to fight and make something of this game.
Nice little
71 for
counter.
6 to 203. And it was a counter attack. It was a counter attack from Kyle. Kyle has always had ability with the bat. I still think he's a bowler who bats, but he's always had ability. The fact that he made that 100 doesn't surprise me. The manner of the 100 did surprise me. I was surprised at the positivity of the approach. I was expecting if you compare that partnership and the partnership that Compton and Dudgeon had for KZN Inland.
Yes.
Now they had a 100-run partnership as well, but that was a real dogged and drawn and hard fought, 2 runs and over kind of stuff. It was just lots of blocking and just putting out fires. Whereas Carl and Buren put the attack on a very strong line set up. People should not be surprised by Buren's upturn with the bat there. If you just have to look at his scorecards from last season, both for Province and at his time at Leicestershire, he did 3 or 4 games where he batted for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and he dug really, really hard. I think he's been working exceptionally hard at his batting over the last 12 months. So that upturn in him in his batting, to me, is not a surprise. It's we spoke to him recently. It's a man who's got unfinished business. He wants to go to the next level again. He wants another chance and another snap. And look, the Lions were the better side. There's no question of it, particularly that second innings. But it was good to see. Don't get me wrong, it was good to see, and it made for a competitive game because at one stage it looked like it was going to be over in 2 days, 2.5 days.
No, I hear you, and I think if you want to listen to the Bjorn Hendricks podcast, you can go to our YouTube or even our audio podcast. It was done last week, so we posted it last week, so that's available to just get a sense of him and his ambition and where he's been and how his career has been. Really great podcast there. Okay, so now we're going to go to our teams of the week. I'm going to start with you, Tim, and for you to effectively explain who your team of the week is. But I will name out the names, and then you will just fill out, the key ones that are there. So you
Yeah.
went with Dean Alga, Tapang Ditole, Jean Duplessis, Jordan Hadman, Mitch van Buren, Clyde Fortain, Miguel Pretorius, Dan Khalim, Bjorn Fortain, Duan Janssen, and Dane Pete. I nearly said three spinners. There's two spinners here, but it's a double Fortain, double spin team.
Yeah. Like, you talk about spin there. I could have had 5 spinners. Spinners had such a ray of sunshine in round 1. I can't imagine what they're going to do in round 7 when the pitches are a little bit more worn. But yeah, obviously I've spoken about Clyde extensively, so I've already explained my thinking around that. But just to go on the other couple of guys, for me, Dane Pete. Dane Pete was the marquee one. Again, okay, I understand it's Division 2, but we mustn't look down on Division 2. There's a lot of good cricket played there. A lot of good cricketers. Dane Pete is international cricketer. Played for the Proteas. Hasn't touched a red ball in 3 years. He's bowling with a white ball in America. You try not doing something for 3 years that you've been doing all your life, and see what it's like when you at the first go. He was a little bit rusty the first innings, but back to his economical, wily best at second. So his 5 wickets for me was a no-brainer. Sean Duplessis, just on that record, he's got to be in there, and I think he's going to be a Division 1 player next season. I think if teams got a little bit of sense, not just on this performance. If you look at his last 12 months, his numbers last season were really, really impressive. And then I think an unsung hero of the Lions. The Lions have got a lot of talent there. Mpho van Buren for me is such a good player. He is such a good talent.
So Tim, so what I want to say about Mitch is like I think he's the type of guy who can get into that Proteas side even now, and he'd have the mentality to fight it out, because every time he scores runs for this Lions team, it's always in a fighting cause, right? And obviously now it wasn't necessarily in a fighting cause, but he was actually putting away. Super talented, really good mentality. I think he's one to make that Proteas ODI side soon, and maybe even that T20 side as well, in the next 12 to 18 months. Test side, you never know. And to a certain extent, if he can continue like this, that number 5 spot might just be his.
Yeah, look, he's an incredible talent. The impressive thing is, you right to put it out. The impressive thing is there. A lot of his runs are coming from fighting causes. A lot of his runs are coming from difficult situations. Not this week, but a lot of it is, and that tells you about his temperament. He comes to the crease. He believes he's going to score runs. Now he might not on that particular day, but I could feel it. I watch him and go, his confidence. He's got that self-belief. He's got that inner belief within himself that I think some of our players don't have for whatever reason. I think the ceiling for him is very, very high potentially. Really.
And in those horrible Lions matches in the early season, he was one of the standout batters in that Lions side when everyone else was failing around him. It was him who could kind of give the Lions a run, and obviously a Ryan Rickleton as well with that 100 as well. Like that's the type of mentality that I think might be overlooked over picking the superstars who look appealing from a textbook perspective. But that's a conversation for another day, maybe post the World Cup. My team of the week is slightly different to yours, but I went with Dean Alga and Tapang Ditole. I went with Lesego Senokwane at 3. I know he's an opener, but I wanted a wicketkeeper in my team, and he was He scored runs. I love his glove work. I think he's a good wicketkeeper. And I thought he's had a great season last year and he's improving on that. That 100 tells me that he's ready to have a proper season. And if he can come out with 400, 500 runs this season for Northwest, he might actually be one of the standout performers that actually help Northwest stave off any form of relegation. Thinking Jean Duplessis out of Division Two, you can't run away from a double and 100. Even scoring 100 and 100 in two consecutive innings in the same match is a massive feat. He deserves to be in there. Jordan Hanman's 100 is there largely because he's on the Proteas bubble. He's there. I could have easily put in a Ryan Rickleton, but then that would have made my team very Lions heavy. But Jordan Hanman was the reason why the Warriors ended up drawing the game, and I was looking for moments and guys who could do stuff right. Alga put his team in a good position. Tapang Dutola is the reason why the Dolphins were at 400. Sinokwane is the reason why with Miguel Pretorius why they were the Dragons were actually got to 400. Obviously, we spoke about John, we spoke about Hammond. Mitch Van Buren, you can't run away from 170. Yes, he's a Lions player, but he's the reason why the Lions won. Yes, the Lions bowled well, but he is that 170. It stands on its own, and it's one he'll never forget. His highest first class score. Miguel Pretorius, same thing, massive 100 from an all rounder, a guy who I was starting to write off, but I'm glad he's left the Knights. He's in a new space and he's scoring runs because we know he can bowl fast and he can bowl well and he can give options to this Protea side as an all-rounder because hey, we're looking for all-rounders, and if you can score runs at 6 and 7, you can put yourself in the shop window. John Smarts, you'd be like, yeah, poor John Smarts is very low. The Dolphins are batting him low as well. Effectively, he's now a left-arm spin bowler, taking
he's
9
a
wickets in a
spinner.
match.
Yeah, he's a
Yeah,
frontline spinner now.
yeah, taking 9 wickets in the match, 6 in the first innings, 3 in the second innings. I wasn't going to leave him out. It's one of those things when you look at the scorecard and you're like, what? What is this? That's exactly what it was. A shout out to Duan Janssen. I know there's a lot of Northwest players here. I thought he bowled really well in that game. Really took, I think he took a fifer. And it's and as who's the Limpopo coach again, Tim?
Limpopo.
Yes.
Um, Gordon Parsons.
Yes, as Gordon Parsons said, and we can do this because we're podcasting, right? As Gordon Parsons said, he's also someone who is an underrated bowler, and it's good to see that first game of the season he's starting off well. I was never going to let go of Bill Fortin in my side. Love the way he bowls. I love that he takes fifers in the second inning. Same thing with Dane Pete, right? You could have put Dane Pete in this position as well. He's my 12th man on the side if you're trying to come for me. But Bjorn Fortin is the guy. The Lions really needed to make a statement. They are making a statement. I think the 4-day series is going to be theirs this year, and Bjorn Fortin is going to bowl incredibly well this year. And then last one is a Lions player, Duan Olivier. First innings fifer, opened up the game, put Western Province in trouble, and it's the same Duan that we would like to see in New Zealand. Good to see that he is putting down the numbers and happy that he's not at SA20. And we have a guy who can bowl a little bit of pace going to New Zealand. It's still going to be tough, but we will make a way. We'll make a way. Yeah, Tim, this week, Spin took a lot of wickets. And so those are our teams of the week. Is it going to continue? Because obviously, shout out to Sia Mahima. You could have also been in my team. You took 5 wickets. Is it going to continue? We've seen this trend over the past couple of years, Spin taking a large clump of wickets. Is it a batting issue? Is it a pitch issue? Is the spin bowlers too good? What do you think is happening? And do you think it'll just even out as the season goes along?
I think when we spoke to Dean, I think the same thing's going to happen. I think the leading wicket taker is going to be a spinner. We don't see we don't see Simon, so it won't be him. But I think it's going to be a spinner this season. I think the struggle is that if we look at the pitches were fine. There were nothing wrong with any of the pitches. The pitches were good. I mean, Mahima, I've always been a big fan of Mahima, and I'm glad he's back. At the same time, Van Berg could have had 5.
Exactly.
They can shade it easily. He was spinning it a mile. Um, he
In Paul, by
eventually
the way.
got he eventually got Purvis. Um, uh, Purvis just we took another lot of people. Purvis hadn't a clue. Didn't have a clue at all. Um, and he wasn't the only one. So I think that's going to continue. If I'm honest, I think Spinner is gonna remain the
At the
forefront
forefront.
of the forefront of the batting problems within domestic cricket. Um, but I think the best players will see them off. If you look at the guys that take risks, look at the guys that put pressure on them. There are too many guys in round one that are playing back. Guys that played back to Bjorn Fortuin, Mahima, Van Berg got out.
Yeah.
They got out. The guys that went out and said, you know what, I'm gonna meet the ball where it pitches, tended to dominate. Not always,
Yeah,
but they
and
tended to dominate. So that's the way to play.
and to a certain extent, that's how you should be playing spin in the first place, anyway. So it's going to be interesting to see how teams adapt in Division One and Division Two. Let's go through the fixtures for Division One, starting on Saturday in KZN and Pietermaritzburg, 9 a.m. start. The Tuskers are taking on Western Province. Both teams looking to get their first win under the belt. In Gqeberha, you've got the Warriors taking on the Paarl Rocks. Also, another game where teams need to get a win under the belt. The Warriors have a draw, but the Rocks are going to be looking to get themselves off the bottom half of that table. On Saturday as well, the Titans will take on the Dolphins at Centurion at 10 a.m. That's going to be a very tasty clash. A whole lot of Proteas potentially in that game. So please do look out for that. And then on Monday, the 13th of November, the Lions will take on Northwest at the Wanderers. So that's going to be a high-paced environment, a little bit of a derby, a Gauteng or a former franchise derby happening there on the bouncy pitches at the Wanderers. So if you have time, go check them out. Go have a look there. Just get you the Division 2 fixtures quickly while we're still here before we close out the show. Today, yes, currently happening. Northern Cape is playing the iTech Knights. The Northern Cape Heat are playing the iTech Knights. And in Polokwane, you have Limpopo taking on the Eastern Cape Lanyati. That should be quite an intriguing game. So you got a top of the table clash or so against and a more of a clash of teams who are looking to assert their dominance and show everyone that they are better than last year in the Lanyati as well as Limpopo. Outside of that, Tim, that's the end. Yes.
I'm just gonna add just quickly. So a lot of people are asking me continuously, where can I watch? Is it free? 4-day games are free. So if you're close to the ground, go watch the youngsters. Go watch the young talent. It's important that you go and see. Even if it's your Friday off or your Saturday morning off, go and see the talent. And also, if you can't, it's on the CSA YouTube channel. Free advertising. You have Cricket South Africa, but it's on that YouTube channel. All the games are all there.
That's all we ask.
Just go and watch.
That's all we ask. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, that's where you can catch all the games. All of them are on that YouTube channel right now. You can go watch Northern Cape Heat against the iTech Knights. But outside of that, Tim, thank you very much for that. That's our week 1 recap of the 4-day series. We're going to keep on doing that as the week comes along. Might even be Thursday episodes, largely with the World Cup. And there is a thing called the World Cup semi-final that we need to navigate through in the next coming weeks as well. So good luck to the Proteas playing Afghanistan. Good luck to the Proteas playing Australia after that Maxwell innings, which we'll talk about. But outside of that, till Monday, have a great weekend and lesale kakahiso.